Hello, എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. Welcome to the show. ഇന്നത്തെ നമ്മുടെ guest is Samantha Kannan, who is an author and a writer most popularly known for her content on Quora, where she has over 100 million content views. She published her first book, A New Journey, in 2020, where she talks about her experience teaching in a small village in Kerala. On this episode, we talk about her experience living in India, dealing with anxiety and depression, being kidnapped in Kodaikanal, getting married in South India, and a lot more. If you'd like to check out her content, I'll put a link down in the description. Go check it out. She's an amazing writer, and I hope you guys enjoy the show. Thanks for watching. So, hi Samantha, thank you so much for joining.
Hi.
I started reading your posts on Quora probably in 2018. And
Really?
yeah, when I think you had a very small following compared to what you have now. So I would have never imagined that, this would happen. I didn't even know that I would do a podcast or anything like that. But then I found out that Emma is one of your really close friends and she watches the
Yeah.
show. So I saw a post of her on her birthday or something with you guys, and I was like, oh my God, how does she know her? And then I spoke to Emma, and I was like, do you think Samantha is going to agree to, come on the show and stuff like that? So that's how it all began.
Oh, thanks. I'm
Yeah.
honored.
Yeah. But, I've, like I said, I've known you through your posts for a very long time, and it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you. So I actually read your book during, I think last week, and amazing read. I
Are you
really,
sure?
I think, yeah, I finished the book in I think a day, and I'm usually a very slow reader. So
Oh.
yeah, and you have a new book coming out, right?
Yeah. In a couple of weeks, I can email it to you if you want.
I know I'll buy it. That's okay. I think you
It's like
deserve.
I'm not like my last book. So people think that I like write books to profit off of like Indians and things,
Hmm.
but like. So the book that you read, I spent like more than $2,500 to publish it.
Wow.
Like between the publishing, the cover design, the formatting, everything. It's really expensive. And then, so I told the MD of my school, I'm going to give you like a percentage of the earnings. Because like maybe you saw the forward, like I
Yeah.
took his blessing before I published it because that's his life's work. So I didn't want to compromise it in any way. So I just wanted his blessing on it. And so I told him I'm going to be giving you a percentage of everything. And so he thought that there was going to be this huge amount of money coming their way. And when I think I made like $589, and I was like, I can't give him a percentage of that. So I just gave him everything. So, like people who think that I profited off, it's like I literally made negative money.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about Dr. Joseph Fernandez, right? Who was the MD of the
Yes,
school that you volunteered in for a couple of months or 3 months, if I'm not wrong, right?
yes.
Yeah, and when I started reading the story, I thought, uh, it was not at all fictional and it was a real thing. And then in the end, I figured out that okay, some parts of this, like the Anuj character, and that correlation with Kannan and stuff like that, right? So I thought your actual name was Journey, in the beginning, and then I was like, okay, maybe this Samantha is just a stage name, but then in the end, I figured out it's not. So I mean, two questions that I wanted to ask you because of what you just said. One thing is profiting off of India. I think people have called you a culture vulture.
Yeah.
And I saw a really rude post of someone who said that if you're going to, talk about my country and my people, you might as well, talk about the issues. But I think people don't really know what you do, and you don't maybe really want to publish and say that, okay, I've done this. But like, how negative is that, when you get people saying stuff like that?
It's really, really hurtful. And I mean, with stuff like social media, you can't really, there's no one who can really help you when you're
Mm.
struggling with it because it's like, it is a pretty new thing still. And so when I would reach out to some of my friends and be like, I'm really struggling with this is really, like, it's hurtful. And especially when you know it's wrong, but anything you say is just going to add to it. So your only option is to just kind of leave it. And when you turn to people and no one really understands what it's like, and they're just like, just delete it, like it'll be fine, it'll pass. And it's like, there's no one who could, like, even my therapist, like no one could give me advice on what to do or how to handle it. So I just had to and it's still going on now. There's a girl who made like a 5-part TikTok series about why she hates me.
Oh my God.
And I'm just like, I really want to like show my earning statements. Like from TikTok last year, I earned 75 whole dollars, all of which was donated to Aid India, which is my friend Selva. He works for Quora in New Zealand, and he works with this company, like charity called Aid India. So I donated everything to them because they do a lot of work with especially agriculture in Tamil Nadu, in Rajasthan, across India. And so I just felt like, since the majority of my viewership is related to India, that is where I should pay back the money. So anything I've ever earned, I've donated, which is why I just think it's kind of ludicrous
Yeah.
to think that I'm just like rolling in money.
Yeah, and the other thing is, once I also started, I have a very small following on, YouTube or Instagram, but I still, here and there, maybe out of 100 comments, I get a couple of, negative comments. And
No.
yeah, and
Why?
because one is that I speak in Manglish, if you could say that's
Yeah.
not even a language, but yeah, it's a combination of Malayalam and English. And the reason for that is because, I was born and raised abroad. Like I was there for the whole time, and then I did not really, like, I had to learn to read on my own pretty much, Malayalam. And yeah, I mean, my parents did try to teach me and all of that, but that was not something that we learned in school. So it was not that important. It's like any free time you have, you want to go out and play, right? You don't want to, as a kid,
Yeah.
you don't really care about all this. So once I started doing this, I have to kind of learn on myself and figure things out. So when people say that, why do you speak a lot in English, that's because I think in English. That's just the way it is, and this is my authentic self. But there are few people who think that that's not okay. And the funny thing about this is, even if you get 100 positive comments and 2 negative comments, the negative ones impact you so much, right?
Oh yeah, because the positive ones, you're just like, oh, they're just being nice.
Yeah, exactly. So so you've been to India before you were in Kerala for your volunteering and all of that. So what was the reason why you came in the first place?
So I was actually in college. I was living with one of my friend's families. They're Punjabi, and one of their daughters was getting married, and I was really close to them, but they didn't invite me because I've always been, which is another really funny thing. I'm not naturally outgoing. You can ask Emma. I'm like, she's the like happy, outgoing, jumpy person,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, I'm not. I wish I was more outgoing, but I'm not. And I forgot where I was going with this. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. It doesn't even matter.
No, what were we? I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
so we were talking about the first time you came to India. Why did you come and stuff like that? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I'm like just naturally really reserved and like not that outgoing. And so they thought I wouldn't be able to handle it, or that I would feel overwhelmed or have a difficult time. So they didn't invite me. And I just have this kind of stubborn streak in my head that if you tell me I can't do something, I want to try. So I just kind of like 6 months later just got on a plane, went by myself to Mumbai, and I mean, I made friends. I got by.
And
I didn't.
that, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So that was the first time you came, and you've been to India like 5 times, 6 times so far.
9 times.
Oh wow! I mean, that's nothing to be ashamed of. Anyways, I mean, it's an amazing thing. And you came to Kerala to do your volunteering with this school in Kumbalam, right? Yeah. So was that because you wanted to teach? Was that something that you always wanted to do?
I just kind of, so the first time I went to India, I went to Mumbai, and then the second time, my friends from Mumbai were like, "Hey, we're going to Goa. Do you want to come?" So the infamous Goa trip that never happens actually happened.
Okay.
So we went to Goa, and it was a lot of fun. I much prefer South Goa to North Goa. North Goa is, I'm not outgoing enough for North Goa.
Too commercial for you.
Yeah, like I went to my first and last club ever in Goa, and it was just I left early. All my friends were still inside, and I just like went to the bar. I was like, "Do you have any food?" And then I ended up ordering like bruschetta and water and sitting by myself.
That's sad.
I was like,
Yeah.
and my friends were so upset. They're like, "You're the American, like you're supposed to be the life of the party." And I was like, "I'm so sorry, guys. I just let you down." But then I went to Kerala, and it was just I wanted to. My very best friend is from Alua, so he was complaining, "Why are you always going to North India? Like, come to the South. It's so much better." Like, you know. And so I said, "Okay, fine." So I found this school in Kollam district, Kumbalam, and they also had another school in the neighboring village of Chittumala. So I went there as well. And one is CBSE, one is ICSE. So I would do like Monday, Wednesday, Friday at one school, Tuesday, Thursday at the other school. And I just had so much fun. And everyone was so, like, of course, a couple of people would like make fun of me, like, "Oh, you're wearing pants. Oh, you're eating with a spoon." Like, you know, the stuff that I kind of stuck out for. And it was just a really great experience. And then I went back the next year for a month. And then I went back the next year for a week. And now I'm hopefully going back to my village the next time I come. But I mean, TBH COVID.
Yeah, I think you guys were supposed to come last year in 2020, but didn't happen, right?
We came for Pongal in January last year,
Yeah.
but then COVID, and then we were going to come for Diwali, but we didn't get to. Hopefully
And
this year.
yeah, but things are again, we had a spike 2 days back. It's again, the highest number of cases. So
And
yeah.
I heard Maharashtra is extremely
Yeah,
bad.
it's really bad. And even in Kerala, I think, there are quite a lot of cases even now. So, I mean, only time will tell, how this is gonna go forward and stuff like that. But what was really different, compared to North India versus South India? Because a lot of the tourists, right? Even I follow a lot of vloggers who are, foreigners, like, Bald and Bankrupt, or I don't know if you've heard of these guys. So, there are some of these really amazing YouTubers that I follow, but none of them really come to South India. And that's always disappointing as a South Indian, because it's a whole different, feeling. Or so what was different for you the first time you came to Kerala?
I think it was just being in such, because it was a village, so it was so quiet, it was so peaceful, it was so warm. Like, I remember being so mad when I was in Delhi once, because I was like, if I wanted to be cold, I would have stayed home. It was so cold. I mean, it was February, so I mean, it's gonna happen. But I was so upset because I didn't realize, because I'm an idiot, that it would actually get that cold. And but whenever I've been in the South, especially in Kerala, it was just so peaceful and so green, and the air was so fresh, and everyone was so nice. And I mean, the infamous foreigner tax is far, far less in the South. Like in the North, I've been charged upwards of 10 times just shamelessly, which, I mean, I get it. It's totally fine. Like, support your families. What's a few dollars to me can help someone's like kid get an education. I'm not really opposed to paying the foreigner tax anymore. But in the South, everyone is so straightforward, and it just feels, I don't want to offend anyone, but like it just, I've always just, ever since going, Kerala is my third trip, and ever since then it's just been my preference.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, traveling to India don't really know that the South is a whole different kind of a feeling compared to the North, right? I mean, obviously, there's so many beautiful places in the North, like Rajasthan and, I mean, Jaipur and, all those places. But
Sikkim.
yeah, Sikkim, and even, Jammu and Kashmir, I'd, been there once. So it was like a whole
You
different,
went?
yeah. So I was,
I'm not allowed to go.
oh, really?
Yeah, like foreigners have a lot of limitations on where they can go.
Yeah, so I think I went in 2017, and even I think now it's even harder for us to go because of all these
No.
problems that are there, with the borders and all of that. But yeah, it was again, Jammu and Kashmir was like a whole different world, and it's like actually paradise, And I prefer the cold compared to the heat because we were always in the heat. So and even like I said, I grew up in the in a place called Bahrain, which is in the Gulf, and it's again really hot there. Like it gets up to 48 degrees, 45 degrees in summers and all of that. So I obviously prefer, cooler weather, unlike you, but yeah. And in the book, right, when you had the foreword by Dr. Joseph, and he says that, you have a rocky love affair with India. Why is that?
Because as with anything, like, I don't like to focus on negative at all because I feel like the media does enough of that. Why should I add to it? So that's why maybe it's annoying how positive I am, but I just feel like as someone who has seen so much positive, it's kind of my responsibility to make sure that that is known, to share as much positivity as I can. And so, like, even, that whole like kidnapping thing, like, I don't talk about that very much because I want the positive things to come. So like my Rocky thing was like one of the warden, she of the hostel,
Mm-hmm.
she was a very sweet girl, but she was very young. I think she was like 22 or 23, and she was by herself basically taking care of and responsible for these like 25 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of pressure on her, and then she had some family pressure as well, like marriage age and everything. And so I became kind of her scapegoat for all of her frustrations.
Mm-hmm.
And she just really, really hated me. So there were some issues with that. And then, like, I had this huge fear of spiders. I think
Mm.
I squealed the first like 20 times I saw a lizard. so so it's just like there were some difficulties. There was a lot of adjusting. But there's this really smart thing that one of my friends said one time, and it was like, um, change is like holding onto a rope or swimming in a current. Like the more you fight it, the more you hold the rope, the more you swim against the current, the more you're hurting yourself.
Yeah.
So it's best to just adapt, go along with everything. I mean, you're not hurting anyone. Just go
Mm.
along with what is there. Why are you so stuck in your ways? And just learn about a different group of people. And maybe like there's so many things that I've learned that I never would have learned if I would have just been like, my way is the right way. I'm going to do everything my way. I mean, when in Rome, do as the Romans do.
Yeah, and when you in the book you also talk about not really wanting to come to Kerala. Is that only the character in the story that didn't
Yeah.
want to come? Okay, so you actually
I was,
wanted to.
yeah, I was really excited because my best friend, so I just really wanted to see, because he went to school with Niven Polly. Like,
Oh wow,
I,
and you are a big
yeah,
fan.
yeah. So I was like, I was so upset with him when I was like, can you like introduce me? He's like, we went to school together. Like, we're not best friends. so,
Yeah.
and I was just like, I just want to like say hi. Like, hi, I'm the biggest fan of you in the entire earth. And then I have another fan who's a big DQ fan. So we kind of like, or a friend who's a DQ fan. So we kind of have this battle of like, who's better. But of course, Niven always wins. And him and Nazria together, I just love them so much.
Om
I'm sorry.
Shanti Oshana,
I'm getting
right?
off track so much.
That's okay.
Yeah, and like even Bangalore days, even though they were cousins, like
Hmm.
still,
Yeah.
I just love them.
I think, he had that really good, I mean, he had a set of really good movies that came in, Premam and Om Shanti Oshana, Bangalore Days.
Yeah. Sai
Amazing.
Pallavi.
Oh, yeah, Sai Pallavi also.
I
So,
love her.
yeah, she was amazing.
Mhm.
And yeah, so talking about Sai Pallavi, something else that I, read on your feed was her, rejecting that, I think fairness cream for around 2 crores
Mm.
because she thought that it was not right. And even when you came to India, people, I think, told you that, you're so beautiful because you're so fair and, stuff like that. And that's something that, even being an Indian, something that we deal with a lot because we, if like I'm a little bit on the darker side, so people kind of always consider fair to be equal to beautiful, and that's something that as a kid, you can imagine how insecure you feel, when you hear all these things, and it's not your fault that you're dark, or that's just who I am. And that's something you realize once you age, once you become wiser and know that it's just the melanin in your skin and stuff like that. So how weird was it for you when you came here and then people always talking about this fair and dark and stuff like that?
It was really bizarre to me because my whole life I was made fun of,
Wow.
like in my school, because like, it's not, I'm like, my parents are Irish, like
Hmm.
we're extremely pale, like everyone used to make fun of me and they were like, oh, like, are you related to Paper and Snow? Like,
Oh my
just
god.
stupid kid things.
Yeah.
And then like to have people remark about something completely out of my control, like my student's father saying that my arms look like tube lights, like those things. It was just it made me really uncomfortable to see how kind of inferior people felt for
Hmm.
something completely out of their control. Even like my half Russian like that really happened. And it just made me feel so bad that like they were beautiful girls, but to be put on that pedestal constantly in front of other students, it made them feel so uncomfortable. And I wish it wasn't that way, but
Yeah, unfortunately it is. And at least, the next generation of parents can kind of instill confidence in their kids and not worry about who's fair and who's dark and stuff like that. Because that's just something, even in the marriage market here, right? That's something that people really look at. And you have a section that talks about your complexion also if you're on one of these sites. And fortunately, I didn't have to go through that. But it's just really sad that, we're still living in an age like that. And I think it's only through education. And did you ever try to tell people that, it's just because of this and it's just the
yeah.
melanin, but did it work?
No, I tried really hard to be like, and one thing really upset me, one of the teachers, it was just LKG, like they were babies.
Mm.
But one of the girls, she kept touching my arm. And so I have freckles, like it just happens. And the teacher was like, "Oh, look, she's getting spots. She's gonna turn dark like you if you don't stop." And I was like, "You
Oh my
can't say
God.
that to a child."
Yeah.
Like the things that like any sort of trauma or insulting anything, like they're going to internalize that for their entire
Yeah.
lives. Like the way you speak to them now is going to be their mind voice as an adult. And I was just like trying, like, I mean, I don't want to be like white savior or anything, but like it really hurt to see people treated like that.
Yeah, and another issue that foreigners have when they come to India is being stared at, and that is something that is I really don't understand. I mean, I think it's just natural to some extent that we stare at people, but it can be so uncomfortable being on your end of the spectrum, right?
Yeah, at first I was just like, I didn't mind it that much because, like, at first I was like, do I have something in my teeth? Do I have something on my face? And then I was like, okay, this is just something I have to get used to. And then it got to a point where it was just so frequent. And even like, I was on a ferry in Mumbai to the Elephanta Caves,
Mm-hmm.
and these people were taking turns sitting next to me, like, and taking pictures, pretending like they were hanging out with me. And I was just like, what is
Oh.
it was just so awkward. And it's like, if you want to say hi, like you can say hi. You don't have to like sneakily take pictures. And because like I don't think that, like, as much as I don't like it, I don't think that I am assertive enough to be like, go away. Or, like,
But in the book, you have one section where you talk about, you and, I mean, let's say Journey and Anuj, these two characters going to eat vada or something in one of the, smaller shops. And then Journey tells them that, you need to stop staring. The food is great and stuff like that. Did that really happen?
that's my mind voice.
Okay, so yeah, it's obviously very difficult to, tell someone, especially if you're a nice person, it's really difficult to tell someone to stop staring and you just feel awkward. And that's something I think that foreigners face a lot while they come to India. It's just this thing that I don't know, how we can actually change that. It's probably the only thing is that you have a lot more foreigners coming in and, people getting so used to this that, yeah, they're a part of the society and stuff like that. Maybe, that's maybe not even a good idea, but, I was just thinking, how do you change something like this that's so inherent within us? And we're just so used to staring at anyone who's not an Indian. Like, let's say, is that a black person or, is it, someone else? It doesn't matter. So it's just something that's always been here, and probably, even I have been guilty of doing that. Just, it's just a thing where you just, look at, okay, there's someone who's not from here kind of a scenario. But yeah. You
Even I
talk.
caught myself doing it though. Like
Oh, okay.
when I was with my friends in Mumbai, we would play this game, and we would like once we would see a foreigner, we would all kind of like take turns guessing where we thought they were from.
Right.
So like it just, I mean, I guess I kind of fell into it too, so I'm guilty.
Yeah, but I
Sorry.
think there's that line that you have to, draw and be like, okay, now I'm looking too much that I'm making the person uncomfortable. So yeah, that's something
Oh
that,
no, we weren't like hawks. We were just kind of like
yeah. So that's still
FBI
fine as
style.
far as they don't know, right?
Yeah, of course.
Amazing. So, other issues that you had while coming to India was one, the bathrooms were so different, the toilets were really different. You talk about all these in your book, and even washing clothes, for the first time. That's also something that I found really amazing, that two kids come up and show you how to, wash your stuff. Was that something that actually happened?
Yeah, I didn't know what to do, so I don't think I wrote about this, but I hadn't washed my clothes for so long because I didn't know what to do that I just went to town and bought new clothes.
Okay.
And I think they noticed after a while, like Samantha, miss, you're never washing your clothes. Like, are you doing it in your room? And I was like, I don't know how. And then they just kind of took me under their wing.
It must have been so crazy for you, coming from a very small town of, I think, 950 odd people, if I'm not wrong. And then, coming to this place with so many people around you. You talk about the smells, that it's so different, right? The humidity just hits you when you land and stuff like that. I can't even imagine what kind of change that would have been, and how insecure probably you would have felt while you were here for the first time, especially with people looking at you and stuff like that. But you still overcame all of that, and now you've been to India so many times. You've married a South Indian who's from Tamil Nadu. And coming back to the book, I read somewhere, I think on Quora itself, where you talked about this is going to be the last book that you're going to publish. So was that because from the financial standpoint, you have to spend a lot of money to publish a book, and maybe the returns are not that great, or are there other reasons as well?
The money I don't mind so much because I feel like my goal with that book was primarily to dispel, because when I got home, everyone was like, oh my God, like, did it smell bad? Did you feel safe? Like, the stereotypical things. And so I kind of wanted to publish it to dispel those stereotypes. And so I feel like if I have a good, and then like the book about our wedding, I've had more, like, I think 2 or 3 people actually send me messages primarily on Quora and say, like, my boyfriend's family, my girlfriend's family, they only accepted me because of something they saw in you. And like seeing, like, I think I'm really annoying, but like seeing that I have in some way helped someone else, it just makes me feel so warm and fuzzy. And so many people have asked me, like, I'm getting married to an Indian next month, and of course every single region is vastly different. But they just wanted so many details about everything that happened. So I just wanted to make something accessible that shows everything, start to finish, engagement, wedding, what happened, so that it doesn't set the exact expectations, like maybe for a Bengali wedding or anything. But it just kind of could help someone feel less apprehensive. I hope so. So if I have something I want to say that I feel like has a message that I want to share, like, I don't really care about the price, but it's so time consuming.
Yeah.
So it's just really, and then like also there's a lot of project management in it, which is not my strong suit. So like I have to, because I didn't want to traditionally publish because I didn't want to risk my story being altered at all, since it is real life. So having to manage like cover designers and formatters, and each one has a different like time frame in which you have to fit them, and a different time estimate of how long it will take, and having to fit all of that around on top of working, on top of everything else, it was just way too stressful.
Yeah, and talking about the wedding, like, not to take anything away from the book, but you were alone. Your parents couldn't really fly down because they're older also, and they're not really fond of traveling, and it's a long journey, right? I think almost 24 hours, if you take the layover and all of that. So it would have been really, I can't even imagine what it's like when you are, all by yourself. I know Kannan was always there and all of that, but not having your friends and family who, you've been around, your entire life, not having them. So in brief, like, how difficult was that? A completely different tradition, something that, again, the language is a barrier. So you can't really even converse with people a lot. So
it was really tough. And I mean, I don't really blame them. There were a couple of people who were like, oh, if it was in Europe, we would have tried harder. Those people I'm a little bit upset with still. But my parents, they're not in good health. Like my dad is 78. I wouldn't expect them to undergo such a long journey. Um, but it was extremely tough because being so introverted and being around so many things that are different, and like I've been studying Tamil, but I'm nowhere near fluent, and it was just really really overwhelming, and like I couldn't have done it without like sorry, so like his family was so kind about it and so open, and if they if they hadn't been so friendly and so helpful with everything, I don't think that I would like. It was really 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 stressful. Like I remember one morning I was jet lagged, and we were
Mm-hmm.
getting married in like 2 days, and
Oh.
I hadn't slept in a week since I had been there, and it was just like, this is so embarrassing. I was like just like laying on the floor crying, and his sister was like petting my head like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. So like, you know, if they hadn't been there, it would have been a lot harder.
Yeah, but now it must be. I mean, I read again that both families are really okay with. They were okay with this wedding from the beginning. Both
Oh yeah,
your parents
so
and his parents.
have you seen DDLJ?
Yeah, I have. Yes.
So Kannan is very much like Shah Rukh Khan. He is like, he told me from the beginning, like if both families aren't on board, like we shouldn't do this. It's
Mm.
not right. And so he's very much like old school and wanting to make sure that everyone is respected. So if both sides weren't okay, we wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to have everyone on board because I think it's very hard for people who get married, without their families really agreeing to it. The unfortunate circumstance that happens, you're all alone. Like you don't really have anyone to be there for you when you really need, people around you. Yeah, friends are there, that's all true, but family is family ultimately, right? So
Oh yeah, and especially like if you have kids or anything, like you need familial support to be with you.
yeah. And something else that you talk about in a lot of your posts is about anxiety and depression, stuff like that. And during the lockdown, I've been through these bouts of anxiety a lot actually. And I was not. I never really felt that way earlier. Where you get into that dark. You feel like there's a dark cloud over you all the time and nothing's really going right. So you obviously can't expect people to know why they are anxious or depressed unless they probably see a therapist or sit down and write stuff down and figure that out. But what do you do when stuff like this happens, and how do you make sure that you can get out of it? What are some of the things that you do in that circumstance?
So I'm in a constant cycle between like I've had depression since I remember being like 8 years old.
Hmm.
And like my therapist told me later what it was, but like I just thought, I was a broken child. Um, but yeah, it's just been ever present my entire life. And like sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's better. But it's always kind of there. And it's really important to kind of keep an analytical diagnostic of your mental health at all times. Like how did you feel today? What do you think set it apart? And just kind of checking in with yourself regularly so that you can catch things before they get bad, before you're like, oh no, I'm in all the way. Just being really open with yourself. And then I've over the past couple of months started a kind of really strict thing, like, hashtag 2021, like year renewals and things. Um, but like I'm very strict with myself. Like I do like Surya Namaskar every morning, 5 rounds. I walk, Kiki, our dog,
Yeah.
every single day for like an hour or two. I do Pilates every day. Those things kind of like I read that having your heart rate kind of fluctuate throughout the day
Hmm.
can help to kind of trick your body, like, serotonin, dopamine, like
Yeah.
releasing things, making sure I get enough sleep, making sure that I eat well. I've been very strict the past couple of months with like I have a really bad sweet tooth. Um, and I found that that does like, I don't drink coffee, but like any kind of like caffeine or like excessive sugar intake can really exacerbate anxiety. So I've been really strict about like not letting myself eat too much sugar. Um, too, like, obviously it's in everything, but like this is
Yeah.
America. But just like limiting like ice cream, cake, things like that, and just taking control. And like it's much easier said than done.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just something that I have dealt with so heavily in the past that I just wanted to kind of be like, Sam, you're like 31 now, you need to chill. So
Yeah.
take control of yourself. Um, and of course, everyone has their own journey. So I don't mean that as like a judgment on anyone at all. But that was my personal journey where it led to. And my kind of tipping point was, it's a new year. I'm getting older. I need to take more responsibility for myself. And so that's what I did. But it's really helpful. Like I went through an episode last week and it only lasted, it was like my all-time lowest episode was 4.5 days. And I was just like, I really stumbled upon something. So I think I have to keep it up.
So you think routines really help you, overcome, or, having, rather than, sitting on your couch and not doing anything, you feel like, doing stuff, getting out there, going out to even, walk your dog, all of those routines help. And honestly, that's even helped me a lot. Just, even if I just go out to exercise, just, get a little bit of sun, that really helps with, my overall mood, during the day. And another thing, as silly as this may sound, I always think about how is this really going to impact your life, maybe, in a week's time or in 2 weeks' time. And most of the time, the things that you worry about, like they just get fixed somehow, a lot of the time. There are obviously things that you have to worry about, but most of the time, most of the things that you worry about are not really things that you really need to, screw yourself over for. So that's something that, I always think about the worst case scenario, and that somehow helps, me with my anxiety, and even, to some extent, with the depression and stuff like that. So yeah, that was something I thought I should really ask you about. Yeah.
Oh no, and another thing that really helps is like we naturally are much more gentle with other people than ourselves. So if you ever if you're going through something, if you want to write it down, if it's easier, if you want to kind of have this internal dialogue, but when you tell yourself what's happening, just openly, if you pretend like it's a friend telling you what they're going through, your advice is much more gentle, much more open, and much more helpful than the kind of mean voice that we give to ourselves. So I found that like tricking myself into doing that has been pretty effective as well.
Something that I don't know if you know Jordan Peterson. I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something that he talks about, when people go through tough times, is that take care of yourself like it was someone that you cared about. So like if it's like, let's say it's my wife and she's going through something really bad, like there's a good chance that I'll take really good care of her. And if I would just take that and put it into my own life, things would be much better. So
Exactly.
yeah. So that's something that, those things really help, when you have people like him, talking about the things that he does. And even he's gone through a lot of depression, and he has this constant fight, being such a, a knowledgeable person, especially in this area. And you're also a psychologist, right? You studied psychology?
Not professionally, but I studied it.
Okay. And what
I went the boring route. I work in insurance.
in marketing, right?
No. So I do like HR in an insurance company. So like it's not like actually like I love psychology, but you have to get your master's, and I just kind of got lazy. So I didn't want to do that.
And you are a big fan of The Office, and
oh yeah,
yeah. And so is when you say it's boring, is the life somewhere similar to The Office? Do you have characters like that around?
I'm a lot more fun than Toby. But yeah, I'm just like when I was younger, I was more of a Pam. As I get older, I'm kind of turning into Angela, and I hate it.
Oh my god!
But like not like, as drastic, but like I'm getting a little bit more set in my ways, so I have to kind of force myself to shake it up a little bit and stop being like an Angela. But
yeah,
I mean, she wants to save Bandit, so she does have her priorities.
So my wife told me about The Office years back, and I just started watching it like a month ago. So I'm still not done with the whole thing.
Just now.
Yeah, so that's like almost everything that I do nowadays. I'm just so hooked to it.
What season are you on?
I'm on the 8th season. I think I have like a couple of episodes more. So yeah, Michael Scott's left and stuff like that. That's where I am.
Try not to cry.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I wept when he left.
and I always thought that he would come back, but not yet. So I'm hoping he still does. I mean, no spoilers, but yeah, but what an amazing series. And, stuff like that also helps you, right? When you are, going through a tough time and with the lockdown and stuff like that, watching something that's really that you can just sit there and not really worry about anything and just sit there and watch it really helps as well. So, yeah, stuff like that. But another thing that I found really, funny in some ways is when in the book you spoke about not understanding a few things, like, the dialect, like I'll go and come, ഞാൻ പോയിട്ട് വരാം kind of a thing, right? Where you expect people to come back, but it's just something they
Yeah.
say. So the first few times you actually waited when people said, I'll go and come.
Yeah. And they never came. It was so upsetting. And like I thought about kind of spreading it out in the book, but I was like, no, if I just put these examples on top of each other, it'll solidify it better. But it really happened like once and then a couple days later and then the day after that. And then I was like, what is happening? Do people just hate me? Or like maybe they got held up somewhere, something's going on. But then I just kind of, you know,
So
figured out.
it must be really difficult because when you're learning Tamil and you're trying to figure things out, but there are a lot of these things that are there in any language, right? There's all these things. So how do you get around that? Is it just speaking to people and understanding the references better? Is that how you get better at it?
I've always had kind of, so it's called the chameleon effect. And it's something that my mother does also. She like if we watch a movie set in like the southern US or if we travel somewhere, she will kind of pick up the mannerisms
Mm-hmm.
and she'll pick up the accent a little bit. And my parents also, they always knew when I had a new friend because I would kind of pick, like I had a friend who used to go like this all the time and I started doing that and they're like, what are you doing? So like I've always picked up mannerisms and things very easily. So when I traveled, I subconsciously kind of picked up a lot of things without realizing it. Like if you want someone to hold something, you tell them to catch it, and that doesn't mean you're gonna throw it at them. When like one of my students, Nigel, was like, Samantha, miscatch this, and I was like, okay, and he was like, what are you doing? So and like covers his bags, it's just kind of like I've always been pretty receptive to differences like that, and that really enabled me to adapt a little bit easier, I think, because when the Canadian, she actually did come, when she came, I was able to kind of be like a liaison for her and like help her kind of figure out everything that was going on and all the differences so that she could adapt better because she wasn't picking up things quite as quickly.
So do you still keep in touch with all of these people you worked with in that school?
Oh yeah, so the librarian, Miss, she's pregnant. It's great. She was living with her husband in Dubai for a while. Now they're back in Kerala. And the MD, of course. The principal, she is now at a different school close to Varkala. A lot of my students, they're getting so old now. Like one of them got married.
Oh, really?
Like an older, and it was an
Okay.
older girl. She's like 20 now. It's okay.
Okay. I thought child marriage.
No. But like it's so crazy to see them all growing up, and like so many of them are in college now, and I'm just like my babies. Like, they're so grown up, and they have bikes. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I just feel like an auntie. But yeah, I love them so much.
Yeah. I mean, thanks to social media in a lot of ways, it really helps you keep in touch with all of these people. And I'm sure they're also waiting for you to come back and visit and, stuff
They're
like
all
that.
gone though. That's
Oh,
the sad
they're no
thing.
more really living in Kerala, maybe, right?
Yeah, like they're either studying or like because Kannan's mom wants to also see my village because I talk so much about it. But like all the kids, they're in colleges around there. Some of them like to go to the Gulf as they like stay with their families or get jobs, and so everyone's just kind of spread around. And so I don't know when I get to see everyone again, but I hope so.
Yeah, and something that you talked about a really negative experience, and I don't want you to talk about it if it's really traumatic to talk about the kidnapping, obviously. So if you don't want to talk about that's totally fine. But it was really like my heart was beating so fast, just reading that because I couldn't even imagine. being in that situation, any lady, any woman, any girl being in that kind of a situation with drunk men around. And I'm so happy that you were able to use your senses and get out of that. So yeah.
Oh yeah, it's okay. It's kind of more like anyone who's watching, like it's more of a mild kidnapping.
Yeah, but still.
So don't get worried.
Yeah.
But like I had in my head, I kind of had this quarter-life crisis of being in a cubicle all the time. So I was like, I want to actually learn like skills. I wanted to do something more meaningful. So I had it in my head that I was going to go and do some NGO work in India, and I wanted to visit all the. I wanted to visit all the states. I wanted to learn all the languages. I wanted to learn things, and so I had this plan to go counterclockwise, starting in Kerala and working my way around because I was most comfortable in Kerala, and I was gonna do help out at an orphanage, at an animal shelter, like at this reforestation project, not deforestation. I was gonna help out like on like an organic farm. Like I was gonna learn all these great things, and I was really excited. And oh, hi, Princess Puppy. Sorry. So I was gonna learn all these great things. But then I am an extremely anal. What are you doing? Sorry. But I'm an extremely anal planner. So I had everything planned. I had this whole itinerary, like hand-drawn map. Like I went crazy. And then one by one, and I confirmed with them 6 months prior and then 2 weeks prior, just to make sure everything was in a row. And yeah, one by one, they just started saying that the first one, they were no longer in operation, which like I feel like you probably would have known that was going to happen 2 weeks ago. Why didn't you tell me?
Seriously, yeah.
And then I called the second project, like, hey, can I come a little early? They said, no, actually, this spot is full too. The people from last month are going to stay this month. Then I called the next project, and luckily they were sticking to their schedule, but they were like, we really don't have room until the agreed upon time. So I had like a month to kill. So I was like, let me just find a new project. And so I found one. I went there immediately. It was just in Tamil Nadu, in Kodaikanal.
Yeah,
and,
you wouldn't expect, such a beautiful place, people would have such a bad experience. But
and Kannan wanted to go there for a honeymoon. And I was like, I can't. I'm sorry. But like, I went there. The driver, as we got there, like my network was getting spotty, and the train was getting extremely rugged. Like the Jeep almost tipped over a couple of times. And he was like he didn't know English very well, but he kept giving me that like concerned father look, like, are you sure that you want to do this? Like, I don't feel like you know what's happening. But I was like, no, it's fine. Like, keep going. It's fine. And even when we got there, he was like, are you sure you want me? Like, this was all very like eye contact communication, but he was like, are you sure you want me to leave? Like, I can stay. And I was like, no, it's fine. Like, don't worry about it. And then the main person was the only one who knew English, which like obviously I'm not one of those people who's like everyone should know English. Like it was just like I didn't have a means of communication with anyone else to really know what was going on, so it was kind of tough because he was always busy. So that was why I mentioned that. But so I was sitting waiting in like this kind of rec room, and they later showed me to my accommodation, and it was like, and like I'd lived in a village hostel. Like I'm not like a diva who needs like a 5-star hotel everywhere I went, but it was like a shack, and it had two like wooden bed frames, one of which had a huge dusty pile of wood, and half of the room had like this kind of thick aluminum partition that someone was staying on the other side of, who could like easily come over if they wanted to. And then the door didn't have a lock, and I was just like, this is weird. But I just kind of went along with it. I was like, you're just being a diva. Like, you don't have any cell phone network. You're just mad because you can't post on Facebook. Like, you'll be fine. Just deal with it. And then I just kept having this inky feeling. And then I went to ask, like, there was one other girl I saw. So I went to ask her, like, hey, can you call me a car or something? Like, I kind of want to leave.
A local girl, right?
Yeah. I don't know if she... Oh, I forgot to mention, these people, it wasn't actually an NGO project. They wanted me to be a free maid for their hotel also. Like, they were taking a job away from someone local who could have been earning money for their family, and trying to trick a foreigner into doing it for free, which is a huge ethical dilemma. And it's
But
also
in the
illegal.
first place, how did you get in touch with these people if they're not an NGO? Like, where did you find this website or whatever?
So there's this website called Workaway that a lot of people use around the world when they're traveling, because you basically do work in exchange for free food and accommodation. So it's all these groups and NGOs that have been vetted. And I had gone through so much effort to verify, and you have to pay like an annual membership fee of like $20 to make sure everyone's legit.
Okay.
And so I had gone through all this trouble to like check social media handles, check websites, check ratings and everything to make sure everyone else had been legit. But for this one, I was just in a hurry because I just wanted to do something. I didn't want to sit around for a month. Like, it
And
didn't
this
sound
was
like any
last
fun. I wanted to
moment,
do
right?
something.
Like
Yeah.
you were almost on the flight, if I'm not wrong, to India.
Oh, no. This was like 3 days after I landed.
Oh, okay.
So I just kind of I went there, and then the girl, she said that there were no cars that could come. And then I found the guy. I asked him if I could go to town, and I started making up excuses like I need to do this, I need to buy soap, I need to, buy like pads, something that'll make a guy uncomfortable. So he'll
And
just
these
say,
guys were
okay.
drunk. These guys were
Yeah,
drunk. All these people
it
who
was
were
getting
around.
dark.
Yeah.
They were all drunk, and they kept saying like I couldn't leave. I'm
And
not allowed to leave.
the driver who was concerned about you had already left.
Yeah, because I told him it was fine.
Yeah.
And like that's no fault of his own. It's my fault. But yeah, and then finally I told them like my parents had no idea where I was either. So because I didn't want to worry them. So I said like my parents know exactly where I am. If I don't call them like every 12 hours on the dot from my phone number, they're gonna call the police. And then he was like, okay, fine. So then he took me to town. I took all my things with me. So he kind of knew something was up, but he was like, okay, fine. And then as soon as the car kind of like stopped, I just kind of like jumped out and ran and got in an auto. And this auto driver, I think he had been sleeping, and he looked at me like, what is happening? And then like when he saw my face and like how panicked I was, he was like, okay, fine. And then I just booked an Airbnb. And then the next morning I went back to Kerala.
And someone had knocked on your door while you were in there. Some
Oh
guy?
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
And someone knocked on my door. It was just like really a lot of really uncomfortable moments, and like me being from such a small town and not really having experience dealing with situations like that, I was so naive and just like trusting of everyone. And I mean, I still am very naive, but I'm much more cautious now because it's so dangerous. And we all kind of have this complex where we think that nothing can really touch us and nothing can, like, we can do anything, nothing will ever happen. But I mean, life is so risky, especially like not to say like India or anything. If you're in any place, even if I was in New York City, I wouldn't have done something like that. Like, why was I doing that? So just kind of like hindsight of like how naive I was. And hopefully, like, I didn't want to talk about it, but I also wanted to help if anyone else went through something like that, to kind of think of ways to get out of it and how to encourage them to pay attention to their gut instincts, like all the red flags that happen, because I didn't.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to I didn't want to like speak about it as like a lot, but I think it is important to discuss to
It's
help
definitely
people.
important because even people who come from cities in India, who are not really used to maybe a village lifestyle or things like that, you can also get into these situations. You need not be a foreigner to get into one of these situations. And like you said, evil people are everywhere. It doesn't matter which country you're in. Or luckily, you were able to get out of it and talk about the story, and I'm sure it helps a lot of people. And even your whole thing that you do, right, even though you say that it's not about the money, obviously, that you invest so much time into talking about these things, publishing a book. It's all about helping other people, and that really gives you a satisfaction. And I'm sure it helps a lot of people understand more about Indian culture, because like you said, we kind of stereotype everyone. And even as Indians or as anyone else, for Americans, we also have those things where I'm sure you would have faced this, where people think that it's so easy to let's say when it comes to getting a girl. They think that American women are so easy to get. That's a stereotype. It's just something that maybe the media projects, or you think about, because people talk about stuff like that. And we always have this thing where we think that foreigners, just because maybe they wear shorts, let's say, just taking an example, a bad example probably, but we think that, oh, they're okay with anything, but that's just not the way it is, right?
It's very common. We all kind of, especially like the media is so much to blame of every country, because every single country kind of does this thing where you put yourselves on a pedestal and everyone else, and like this is not India, like not the US, like even like Australia, Argentina, everywhere does it. Where you just kind of, because you are the media for that nation, so you make those people feel better, and you kind of put down everyone else. And I mean, we do it in the media. Like, how negative is the representation of Indians in American media? How negative is Chinese representation, Mexican representation? We're all guilty of it. And I don't really hold anyone accountable for it, because I feel like it happens everywhere. But I think that it's hopefully something in the coming generations that will gradually improve as we become more of like a global economy and a global presence, where we kind of respect each other a lot more.
Yeah, and this is something that I've kind of always thought about. If people could just be, a global citizen of the world. I mean, I know it's obviously very difficult, but things would be much better. All these divides, all the wars that we have, within, with other countries, like you said, a lot of these things could actually be eliminated if you actually just thought about yourself as a person, as, being a citizen of this whole world. I know it's a utopian, thought, but
one day,
hopefully. Yeah. And I think, even when you talked about media, I think it's changing a lot, that, people are now figuring out what is right, what is wrong, and that Facebook can actually, give you a lot of information which is not true, stuff like that. I mean, you can't, it's like in Kerala, not in Kerala, probably in India, there's this thing called WhatsApp, that I'm sure you know by now, where, there's so many forward messages that come. And even my parents, send me some of these things at times, which don't make any sense. Like, and I wouldn't blame them, because that's the information that's being sent around and spread. So you kind of think, okay, that's the right information, but you kind of have to dig deep and figure out what's the truth. Like, to take an example, I don't know if you heard of this. There was a Zomato delivery issue that happened a few days. Yeah. So everyone in the beginning, they were just, supporting the woman, because obviously, I mean, that's the information that they had. But no one really waited for the other side of the story till a couple of days, went by, and you heard his side of the story, that you figured out that, okay, this lady was the one who was trying to, just to get some free food, she, went through the whole thing. So I think people have to really take a step back. I know it's so easy to say this, and, all of us are guilty of not doing it, but I think people have to take a step back, and whatever you listen to, you have to kind of verify your sources and stuff like that. And I think, in the US, you guys have this Fox CNN thing that comes, with the politics and stuff like that, right? So it's the same everywhere. It's the same with all media, all the channels that we watch. They all have hidden agendas. They all, all support political parties. So the news that you get probably isn't the right news, right? It's just one perspective. So.
And do you know, like, I know American media, like newspapers, websites, and news channels, they're owned, I think, all by like 5 or 6 different companies. Do you know, like, I'm putting you on the spot, I'm so sorry. Like, do you know if India does that as well, or is it more widespread?
No, it is.
No problem if you don't know. Sorry.
No, I think a lot of these, I mean, not everyone, but a lot of these channels, there's a big stake that political parties or, politicians have. So they cannot kind of go negative against one side, one party. It's just, that's just the way it is. And it depends on, who you're really following, and that's the news that you get. So it's just the way it is. And even if you look at, NDTV or, Republic, they all have hidden agendas, and they all have, affiliations to political parties and stuff like that. So that's just a thing. And a lot of the time, we people sitting on the other side don't really know this unless you kind of dig deep and, or people, show stuff. But yeah, it's just, that's just a thing that the whole world, I believe, suffers with, the media that we are pushed to consume and stuff like that. So, yeah.
And it's so awkward, like, when sometimes people try to pull me into Indian politics and they ask me my opinions on things. And I'm like, I have been there as like a visitor. Like I don't have the depth and the history to be able to grasp like the history and the effects and everything. Like I don't I don't think that I have the right to have opinions on things because they don't necessarily directly affect me, and I don't know the repercussions and things. And it's just so awkward when people pull me in because I want to like you want to tell people like you support them and like you agree with them, but then you don't know the history and everything associated with it. So it's like this very difficult line that you have to kind of manage to stand on top of, so that you don't go either way and potentially hurt anyone because you don't know the sentiments surrounding everything. It's really tough.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people expect people like you, who have a following, to kind of always have a stand on things, right? You have to have a stance,
Yeah.
otherwise you're not right. You're not talking about stuff, and it's just a really tough spot to be in.
It's very tough. And like American things, I have very strong opinions on them. But I don't feel like and then like of course like natural disasters and things in India, I'm very, very passionate about. Like the Kerala floods,
Yeah.
like we raised a lot of money for those. But like I don't personally feel like I have, like I said, the right to have any opinions. So I try to like stand on that line.
Right. And coming to social media, I think read something recently, one of your posts saying that you kind of are not on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram a lot anymore, and it's just Quora that you use.
Yeah, so a couple of months ago, I like I said, I wanted to kind of help reduce my anxiety and everything. So I decided that probably the best thing, because like I said, I'm not earning from it. The only
Hmm.
thing I'm earning is like friendships and communication, like learning. Like I'm constantly learning things. Like Twitter taught me how to read Tamil. Like
Oh, wow.
they're the greatest. Like I would comment, like because media on Twitter will always post in the actual script.
Hmm.
So then I would just reply to it and like type what I thought it said in like the English, and then people would like reply and give me their gentle corrections, and like then I would have like these threads on like write your name in Tamil, try to read what it says, and like I mean I only learned because of them, so it was so helpful, and I've made so many friends and acquaintances, but it's just it becomes kind of a job after a while where you
Hmm.
kind of feel like you have to post and you have to reply to these people, and um, you have to, it's just so much obligation. And
Hmm.
I just kind of felt like I didn't have the mental capacity for it at that time. So I wanted to kind of back away. So I put like my YouTube videos on private, because I always feel compelled. Like if someone takes the time to comment or to send me a message, it's kind of my duty to respond to it. That was
Hmm.
how I always felt. And it was way too much for me. So I just kind of put this on private, put my social medias on private, and I don't check them, but but then Kiki's birthday is next week, so I'm like, I really want to post for her birthday. But,
Yeah.
and just I'm just really annoying. So, but the Quora, I've never really seen it as social media. Like I know
Hmm.
technically I think it is, but it's just so much more of like an engaging platform where I learn so much from it. So I can't quit. I mean, I got rid of everything else. I need Quora.
Yeah, I think it is. It is definitely a lot more different compared to your traditional, social media, right? So because you're not really looking at, the other people who and thinking that, oh, they have an amazing life, they're doing this, they're doing that. You're not worrying about that on a platform like Quora. And do you think Quora has really helped you, with your writing, with publishing your book as an author? You think you are a lot better than what you could have been if you were not really writing continuously on Quora and trying to tell a story? Do you think things would have been different?
I think like I've always liked writing. Like I had poetry published when I was in like sixth grade.
Hmm.
I've always really liked writing. I used to write a lot of poetry. I used to just write everything, and I always won awards for it in school. But I think it kind of, as you get older and you get pushed into more of a direction, you kind of lose time for those hobbies and those things that you really liked when you were younger. And joining Quora and like writing again and people reacting to the things that I wrote and like resonating with them. it just really kind of gave me that confidence that, maybe I still am okay, right? Like, I just still don't think I'm a good writer. I have no Sean Kernan. But like, you kind of just gain that confidence back. And then when I wanted to kind of tell that story to dispel those stereotypes, I had the confidence to do so, and I owe all, like, basically everything good in my life I owe to someone else. Like, reading Tamil, that's all Twitter. Like, being able to write, that's all Quora. So I'm just really grateful to everyone, like the little community that's there. Like, they're amazing people.
You have over 100 million, views of your post. So that's just,
That's
you're,
so
you're
weird to think
definitely,
about.
yeah, but so you definitely have an impact, with the stories that you're saying, and it definitely helps a lot of people. And you're one of my favorite, writers on Quora.
No, don't say that. I'm so bad.
No, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's really nice to get someone who understands a lot about India and our culture, and trying to obviously break the stereotypes. It's a big deal, coming from someone like you who's not an Indian. So that's amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah, and so when does the book come out?
It's coming out for Tamil New Year on the 14th.
14th of April, right?
Yep.
Yep. Awesome. And
I'll send you one. Send me your email.
Definitely, I'll do that. I'm really, I was really hooked to the first book because, like I said, I'm not really a guy who reads a lot. I rather prefer listening to audiobooks because that's just easier when I'm, maybe going for a walk or a run or something like that. So I can do two things at once, kind of a thing. But yeah, it's definitely a different experience actually sitting down there reading. So thanks to this interview, I actually did that. I actually took the effort to go and do that, and
I
it
hope
was
you
really
weren't too
amazing.
bored.
No, it was amazing. I mean, I told you, right? I mean, reading 250 odd pages in a day is not something that I can usually do, but it was really amazing. So yeah, thank you so much for what you do, and thank you so much for taking your time, and special shout out to Emma for kind of arranging this thing and making sure that it happens. So thank you so much.
Oh, of course. Thanks, Emma.